You got Instagram pulled up?
Yeah, I got it. All right. We're live.
All right, yeah, we're good on there. I was saying I'm excited for this live. I feel like it's going to be a good session here.
Yeah.
Got a feeling. They're all good sessions, though. I can't say that there's any sort of. I don't think we ever really have a bad session. This is what we talk about anyway while we're just like eating dinner. Like it's like the same topic, so it's just like having a conversation.
Yeah. That was what I was talking about with you the other day. It was like, just kind of reflecting on why we got into selling on Amazon. Like, as what was the catalyst for you in getting into this business?
Selling online or Amazon? Because selling online was like a stupid reason. I've told you this before about how I just like so I've always, for like someone that's listening, I've always driven pickup trucks. I have one now, and now it's better on gas, but it wasn't so great way back when. So I wound up just being like, man, like I need money for gas, like, and I don't have enough. Like it was like as simple as that. And so I just decided to try to Google how to make money, and online selling came up, and I found Reezy Resells, and I just went and bought a bunch of stuff from there. So it was quite literally I needed gas money, which I always joke around and say like that's how I started the business, right? But I think that like there's a bigger why behind it too, which is just like freedom of time, freedom of a lot of different things, like being with my family more, like all those things are super important to me. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think if, maybe at face value, it's like you got into it for gas money, but if you needed gas money, you could have just got a job at, a Dunkin' Donuts or something.
Yeah, I should have, right?
So it's like, there's, I think there's underlying motivations, beneath that where you're like, because as entrepreneurs, like I know myself and you're the same way in that, like, we just fundamentally do like believe and just have this pull towards fulfillment and like not wanting to work a job,
Right.
not wanting to be like stuck. For me, like kind of the catalyst, if you will. And we all get into this business to make money, right? Like we all want to, increase our potential for earnings. I feel like that's kind of like um, the initial like shininess of the object and getting into the business. But like for me, it started very simple and like freedom of time. I didn't want to be bound to a schedule like at work. Like I just wanted to do simple things like go to the gym when I wanted to. And, um, like I didn't want to have to take a lunch break. I wanted to like walk over to my kitchen and just,
Yeah.
get the food and
It's
eat
funny,
it.
the similarities, like it's true. It really is. And those things now, like I feel like I'm even worse than you with like, I cannot stand when someone tells me to do something on a schedule. Like it's like we were talking about something, and I was like, "You're like, yeah, why don't you get back into because you doing jujitsu now, and I used to do taekwondo when I was younger and everything, and it was like." You're like, why don't you start it again? I was like, I just don't want to have anyone tell me to show up at a class at a certain time. And you're like, what are you talking about? Right? But it's like so ingrained in me that I just hate. I don't know. It's like I want to set my own schedule now. So, but
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely one of the reasons people get into
yeah,
this space, making money online. Um, I mean, it's extremely rewarding, like, to have that type of a schedule. But it wasn't always like that, right? Like when you're first starting, it just kind of feels like, um, you know, everything's all over the place. Like you're trying to do a million things at once. You're trying to figure this whole thing out. And then, but I think just the biggest thing when you're first starting is just taking it, you know, getting some small wins out of the way, taking it one step at a time, and really focusing, singular focus on one thing. So
Mhm.
whether that's like if it's Amazon FBA, maybe you're singularly focusing on one business model. So arbitrage, wholesale, or private label. Like we'll always say, we're biased towards wholesale. We say do wholesale, but pick one of those models. Like I'd rather see somebody do only retail arbitrage or only private label than try to do like wholesale and private label or wholesale and retail arbitrage.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. It's just pick one thing and stick to it, and you'll be a lot more successful than trying to do everything. I learned that the hard way. Um, it's one of my character traits. Not the best, but yeah, you lock in and just you know you'll get a lot farther. So let's jump into some questions here, and different things. And if you guys have any sort of questions, like feel free to just ask them. We'll get to everything and answer everything you guys got. Not sure if Brad's read Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Wondering it for the stream if you could tell us why using certain tactics like these can be crucial to closing more accounts of brands. It's a great book. It's one of our favorite books. That's why I'm laughing.
Yeah, I love that book. It's a great book. That was one of like my first. That book like kind of set me on my path for like brand direct wholesale kind of. It's just great book if you haven't read it. It's all about like it's an FBI negotiator. Really, really powerful stuff in there about emotional intelligence and negotiating and just peeling back the layers.
Yeah. While you're explaining this, I'm going to get the one I'm reading right now. So
yeah, it's just the book's all about like peeling back the layers of the onion and trying to understand your prospect, right? Asking those calibrated questions. So yeah, no, definitely that book is crucial for helping to understand the emotional components and sales side of it. It's obviously you have to take the skill set and the knowledge and apply it with those emotional components. So you got to know what you're talking about too. But arguably, you have to know what you're talking about. But arguably, like how you say it is more important. And that's where this book can definitely help.
yeah, I was just going to point out too, this has been my thing lately. See if that focuses exactly what to say. This book, the simplicity in it is like crazy. It's literally, I mean, you can see it's like tiny, right? But if you haven't read that, I would kind of recommend it. I don't know if this is a popular book. I've never really heard anyone talk about it, but I just caught my eye the other day, so I picked it up. But it's
What
been
was that? What was that line you said in there that you were using?
I mean, a lot of them, but I always use would you be open minded to? So it's saying like, people don't want to consider themselves closed minded. So when you're starting something by saying, if you're talking about a meeting or something, would you be open minded to having a meeting to discuss, how to improve your presence on Amazon or whatever? It kind of leads people more in the direction of like, oh, I'd be open minded to that because, I'm an open minded person type of deal. I used a couple today on the phone actually. And today I was saying to you, like I said, I get like one of these days a year where everything goes right. And that was today in terms of just accounts and phone calls and everything. I mean, we had two actually verbal commitments for exclusives on the phone today. I had a third one later today that was like, kind of on the way there. Just one thing after another. So sometimes those little wins add up. You talk about like small wins every day.
Yeah, it gives a lot of momentum. But I think in the whole thing with entrepreneurship, it's like when you said the rare day where everything goes right. I mean, I think that's the reality of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Is that especially like in this space of where you're selling on Amazon, kind of at the mercy of a third party platform to a certain extent. You're always just going to be dealing. I say this line like all the time. You have to deal with spontaneous issues that require immediate attention. When it comes to selling on Amazon, a lot of that's due to Amazon themselves, right? So just those are the sellers that really, you know, really surpass other people. right? Those are the sellers that are successful, the ones that stick with it for a long period of time, you know?
Yeah, that's what it's all about. I think I said this last week, but most people quit before they fail, right? So um, if you can last that long enough, and we just, which is super super cool to see. One of the guys that we have mentored, sent us a screenshot of like a $16,000 purchase order that he just placed within a couple of months, honestly, and that's super motivating to see someone who has prior no experience with wholesale able to do that. So it just goes to show you, if you don't quit and you just keep putting in the work and the reps, the business model works, you know.
Yeah. And that's like, the biggest thing is he put in the work. It was like the time delay between education and implementation was like
Zero.
nothing. It
Yeah.
was like, all right, let's take this education, let's apply it immediately. And those are the guys that succeed,
Mhm.
right? Taking the right information from the right people, educating yourself, and then turning around and mimicking what you just learned. Like that's the way to scale, that's the way to grow, and that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I always said that my dad would say this too, never wanted to be like a perpetual student. Like, yeah, I'm sure you've all, like, everyone's seen those people that they're like 47 and still in college, and you're like, what are you doing? It's like, it's one of those things where it's just like never getting into the real world. And I guess, in this instance, it's never putting that stuff into practice, essentially. And so if you can have all the information in the world, and if you don't execute on it, nothing's going to happen. So you can't, it's a saying, you can't do push-ups by reading about them or something. I probably screwed that up. It's something along those lines.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think like a lot of people fall into that trap in this space, that's just the constant consumption of information, and there's nothing wrong with that, but like it has to be followed up with action, but because the information gaining never ends. Like that's something, I learn like daily. I learn new things daily. We have conversations like today that it's like we're just uncovering information on a daily basis. It's different information than when we first started. We're not trying to figure out what an ASIN is, but it's new information in a different element of the business. So that process never ends. The information gaining and education, right?
Yeah.
I think when that process ends is when you might be in trouble. Like, if you think you have it all or know it all, you might get complacent, and that's where like you stop growing. So like kind of constantly reminding yourself and putting yourself a little bit outside of your comfort level, right? You find yourself maybe getting comfortable. You're like, all right, this is working, I'm good. Maybe kind of like just doing something, um, that's a little bit outside your comfort zone, to just kick yourself into, all right, let's progress, let's educate, right? So that way you're constantly growing
Mhm.
and learning.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
Johnny, I got you after the live. I got you. I was just talking about it with Brad. I had to get the document again. Digging up the archives. That was the document from when was that? So,
it's like almost a year ago.
oh, I don't even remember that. But yeah,
Yeah.
we actually, I mean, if just in general, like resources and stuff we're putting out, we do have the next YouTube video coming out is pretty cool. It's more so like I don't know, what would you call it? Kind of more of a mindset video, just kind of relating to like, taking the experience that we have and what that looks like for maybe someone that is starting to sell on Amazon. Like, what mindset do you need to be in? What's that paradigm shift you have to take? How does that look like for a new seller, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm hesitant to use the words mindset sometimes, because like people think, oh, like,
You're Tony
mindset
Robbins. Yeah.
is, it's like fluff, it's
Yeah.
like, give me the information.
Right.
Right? You see all these gurus online, or these personal development people, it's like the mindset. And then let's like, you got to keep going down the hole for information. Right. But I think at face value, like mindset, and this actually ties in well with this Think and Grow Rich. That is a great book for mindset and paradigm shifting. Um, right, with the whole thing with mindset is that you cannot, like, I don't think you're putting yourself in any sort of position to succeed in this business if you have not adopted the like the right frame of mind. Because when you change your mindset and you make a commitment, like your actions are way more convicting. And now you start acting with behavior that has purpose behind it. So,
Right.
really, I think mindset's where it all starts. You got to shift your mindset, having that. I think every entrepreneur goes through a paradigm shift at some point, realizing that, hey, this is not a road that a lot of people go down. And, I might have to deviate from, what everybody else thinks or what, everybody else is doing, right? You might just have to make a turning point, and that's what I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through in that mindset change. But at the end of the day, behavior follows the mindset, and where your mind goes, your body goes, so I mean, and your actions go. So that's, I mean, huge.
Yeah, and I don't think there's just one of those either. I mean, I think when you initially start a business, maybe it's different, right? Like you have to shift your mindset, but I mean, I think that can happen anytime throughout your journey as an entrepreneur. Things change. I mean, I recently, like in the last, year and a half, just due to things in my personal life, like I feel like I had a really big mindset change as well, and that translated into how I run the business. So, um, I think that we're always growing and changing, and as long as you maintain that level of again, hesitant to call it motivation, but that mindset, that entrepreneurial mindset, I think that it's just a forever growing process. Like it's an evergreen process. We're always changing, and
Yeah.
those that stop changing, I think, are the ones that fall off. Right, like you said, becoming complacent and everything. So it's interesting, but we'll jump into another question here from John's. If you want to pull that one up.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to kick it over to Instagram because
Oh yeah.
Flash Pricer asked a question a little while ago. What are
Yep.
the most important pieces of software for an Amazon seller?
Revenue calculator, Keepa, and the Amazon seller app are the main three that you need as a beginner. It costs you about $60 a month. Literally posted a reel on it about an hour ago, so go check
So,
out the reel on our
so
Instagram.
what is the revenue calculator? Like, what does
Yeah,
that mean? You
yeah,
know,
yeah. So Amazon's revenue calculator is just, checking the profitability of a product. So if we're going to sell a product on Amazon, we want to know if it's profitable given all the fees. So using the revenue calculator that Amazon actually provides for us, you can literally just Google Amazon revenue calculator and it'll come up and you can plug your ASIN in, and it will give you the calculations on that. So there's all sorts of other things. I mean, Keepa, we want to know historical competition, historical sales data, historical price, right? That's definitely a key element. But then having the seller app, obviously, to scan product and whatnot, is the third one if you're a beginner seller. And there's all sorts of other things we use that are more advanced, but those are your core three. It's like the squat, bench, deadlift of Amazon. So
yeah, yeah. Well, Amazon Seller Central is like, think of it as like it's like the mainframe. That's the portal that you're going to use to do everything. So a lot of people will like throw 1,000,001 softwares at you in
yeah,
the beginning, and we try to like cut all of that out. Like what Brandon just said is all you need as a beginner. I think it gets very bombarding and confusing when you have like all these different softwares, especially when you just start out. Like if you're just starting to sell on Amazon, 3 softwares. As you start to add inventory to your business, then maybe get a seller board to track your profitability, get an automatic repricer to stay competitive on your inventory. Maybe you need a listing software, right? So then starting to incorporate some other softwares that will help you streamline and work more efficiently. But at the end of the day, like if you're starting from scratch, like those are the main three. Those are the main three that we use in our business. So it's like that's like like you said, your squat, bench, and deadlift, and then you have like your other accessories that go around that.
yep.
Um,
All right. Jump to John's question here. Left him hanging. Do you guys run PPC just for your exclusive brands?
So we'll run, for reference, PPC stands for pay-per-click advertising. It's a way to run ads on Amazon. So you actually pay for clicks. You set a certain bid in a budget, and you're running ads for your product with the goal of increasing sales and visibility on that product, as well as trying to garner more digital real estate for the brand that you're working with. So to answer that question, we will yes, we will mostly run it just for the exclusive brands. Maybe we'll run it to transition into exclusivity, sort of as a value add and a stepping stone to get into exclusivity. But really, for the most part, the juice has to be worth the squeeze because PPC is expensive. We work with an agency on PPC. PPC is expensive. So there's just got to be enough profit margin in the products that you're selling to invest in that PPC, unless, of course, your brand partner is contributing to that PPC. If they're contributing a spend or if they're absorbing the spend, then there's no problem. You run the PPC for the brands, right? But there's got to be enough margin in those products. So like probably higher average selling price products, like unless it's, a cheap product moving at a super high volume, there's got to be enough skin in the game to be running ads.
Yeah. It's always funny to me how John has a profile picture of the Amazon logo. I feel like he's an operative or something. I feel like he's like a mod from the forums coming after us, waiting for us to slip up, say something that's not true.
Yeah. Shut down our account real quick.
Yeah, really.
No, John, we love you and thanks for joining the lives. We appreciate all the questions. Following up on that, so what do you think about the sales velocity of a product? 100 plus units sold a month, but 3 sellers are on it. If we jump on a listing, then realistically we can get at most 1 to 2 units a day.
Yeah. So for reference, actually today I had a call with a brand owner that the product is essentially doing the same volume that you're talking about, except it's $150,000 gross a month. Right. So
it's high average selling price.
Yeah, exactly. So it depends on the reason I say that is because that excites me, right? So product selling at $9.99 that's selling 1 to 2 units a day, even if you're making a 50% ROI, it doesn't, the dollar value is not there. So for me, in this case, I would look at it from a dollar perspective, and understanding like, hey, maybe some accounts just are not worth pursuing. That's something we've had to learn over the years. I think only in recent years we've actually really locked it in, like dialed it in, which is kind of crazy to say because most people have the opposite problem, but we just don't leave brands alone that we should, So it's like at a certain point, you just don't have to call it quits. And one of the things that goes that way when you want to call it quits is when the sales velocity just isn't there. So that's kind of my advice on it. I don't know if you had anything to add.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Juice has got to be worth the squeeze. Volumes relative to the price that the product sells at.
Mm-hmm. I always say pay bills in dollars. That's the key.
Yeah. And then is value something that you should add when you hear the tonality leaning more towards no, or when should you bring that up?
I think value is a way of selling a vision. So we talk about like translation into the Amazon language. A lot of times brand owners don't understand, right? So translating something into a language they understand is usually by selling a vision and selling the vision of, hey, we're going to, get your brand back on top. And how do you do that? Well, we do it through these value adds. So I think when you hear their tonality uncovering that they want to achieve a certain type of vision, you match the pain point with the value. I think that if you just hear them saying tonality in a certain way, and then you're like, hey, we'll optimize your listing, and they really couldn't care less about that or even know what it is, I think you got the ladder up the wrong wall, basically.
Yeah, I think a lot of beginners in doing wholesale and brand direct wholesale in particular, it's easy to conceptualize, like, all right, here's what I'm gonna pitch to add value to their business, and that's fine, but understanding that you missed a step, which the step is to uncover what their concerns are. And we do that by, asking them questions like, can you tell me a little bit more about how your brand is represented on Amazon? There's different questions that you can ask them, that will start to initiate a conversation that can go in multiple different directions.
Yeah.
It'll also give you ammunition to then sort of guide that conversation in the direction of where you want it to go.
You quite literally speak a different language than them. Like, that's like, it's like, I say that as almost like an example, but at the same time, it's like a literal fact too. Like, think about if you're to go up to, if you sell on Amazon and you're to go up to, we're not talking a brand owner, right? We're talking like some guy on the street, and you start going like, yeah, we're trying to, add a product to our inventory. We're matching up the FN SKU. The ASIN really just is, we have to create a duplicate ASIN so we can merge the parent-child variation. Like that is literally another language, right? And so like looking at that from the brand perspective of being like, they have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. Like,
you might as well be speaking Chinese.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's like you got to kind of just like bridge this gap. But like we as sellers get so entrenched, especially us, like we're so guilty of this. Like even when we do these lives and different things, like we have to take a step back and not get into the granularity of things, because it's just, you're getting into something that they don't comprehend. It's not their business model.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is that, like, how do you find brands? Like, what's a target brand? Well, one of our criteria for these brands, maybe it's not so much like a tangible criteria that you're plugging into Smart Scout. It's more of something that's observatory based on what you see on their listings, if they're optimized or not optimized. One of our criteria is, do they know about Amazon? Well, how do we know if they know about Amazon? Or how do we know their level of knowledge about Amazon? We look at their Amazon listings, right? What do they look like? Are they fully optimized with six images and videography and infographics and A+ content, and they're running ads and they're doing all that? Well, there's minimal to no value we can probably add to them. And we're also getting into a situation where either they worked with an agency, which it might be possible to work with them, right? I'm not saying don't contact brands that have optimized listings, but
literally putting on my jacket upside down. Can't put my jacket on over here.
Yeah.
God. All right. There we go.
And so we're contacting these brands, right? But we know what we're getting ourselves into by looking at their Amazon listings. So we kind of already know their level of knowledge about Amazon going into it, because we see that if their Amazon presence is like terrible, then we can go into it knowing that, and we can figure, and likely it will be, their knowledge on Amazon is not that great, right? That's like a general statement. Like, does it apply in every situation? No. Does it mean you shouldn't contact brands that have a nice optimized listing? No. But like our sweet spot, we were talking about this the other day. It's like, and like training the team, it's like 3 main points of like sourcing criteria. One is, selling price. 2 is a volume, and 3 is what's their brand presence on Amazon. So like when we train our sourcing team members on this type of stuff, it boils down to those 3 things. What is the average selling price of the product? What is the volume of the product? And what does their listing/brand presence look like on Amazon? And if I can find a product that's of the higher ASP, that sells at a higher volume, of course, relative to that ASP, and their listings and brand presence is bad, I found the perfect brand to reach out to. Because I'm going to make a high profit per unit at that high ASP. I'm going to sell a lot of units, and I have value to add that's not currently being delivered. Right? It's a give and take relationship between all 3 of those things.
And honestly, the intangible thing too, like, I mean, there's been, and we've had actually been fortunate enough to have quite a few of these in the past, couple of weeks at this point, which doesn't always happen, right? Is you have situations where it's the brand owner, like the brand owner receptiveness, the uneducation is, if that's a word. I don't think that's a word. The lack of education of the brand owner, but also paired with the willingness to learn and understand is huge.
They
Like
got to be open-minded.
that is, I mean, it's crazy. I was talking about that today with you. It's like we have brands that are literally like are closed within a week into an exclusive relationship, and then we have brands that are 2 years in that are still struggling to comprehend anything relating to the topic, so it really comes down to the brand owner too, which is another intangible.
Yeah. I got to give a shout out here because we got Krubs Flips that joined on Instagram. Matt,
I miss you. Hey, call us back, will you?
Yeah, no, Matt, anybody following and watching here, Matt's a great guy. Krubs Flips. He's a great guy, great salesman. You know.
Oh man.
Yeah. So John here is asking, can you recommend any service to handle return? So returns, maybe clarify that a little bit. Man, I'm trying to rub that one off. That was funny. Maybe just clarify that a little bit, like, because when we ship into Amazon, Amazon handles all the returns and the customer service process.
I assume we're talking about non-sellables here. I mean, the best way to handle returns is to not get as many in the first place. So it depends on what categories you're selling in. Because if you're selling in apparel, you're selling in, shoes, you're selling in some jewelry stuff. I don't know. Like the returns could be really high. Our return rate's very low. That being said, we still get a lot of returns given the volume that we're doing. But yeah, I mean, preemptive listing optimization can also help reduce returns. When you get returns in, I mean, we go through them on a basis of sellable or unsellable. We do our checks, and if it's sellable, we send it back in, and if it's unsellable, we liquidate. So,
yeah. And the other thing is, and the other thing is, aside from what Brandon mentioned there, which was like avoiding like high return categories like apparel and such like that. Definitely, work with your manufacturer and brand partner. If that is a product that you can get like a component part for, or it just needs a box, a lot of the, like most of the brands we work with, if we need to get a box, they'll provide it for free. A lot in that case, they'll give us a box for free, or they'll give us, a component part for free. John said, keep it together. Yeah, I almost lost it. You have to really like work with you, especially because high ASP products, we sell different high ASP products. I know a lot of guys will target high ASP products. You don't want to be stuck with those returns. So, working with your brand to a lot of brands will replace those one-to-one, so you might not even know of this information. Like there was a period of time where like, I didn't even know that some of these brands would give us the one-to-one replacement part. Mm-hmm. So, just inquire with them. What's their warranty? What's their return policy? So that you can, protect your bottom line and really salvage those returns. Let's so jump down to Tim. Hey man, caught the last replay. Listen in the background. Cheers, man. Good to have you in. Ask any questions you have. John's got another follow-up question here. When are you optimizing images? Do you create your own or get them from the brand?
Yeah, I mean, we can kind of cite the call we were on earlier today where the brand basically asked us this question. And our answer to that was like, hey, we work with you. So we have, we might have a team that can do it or outsource it to someone or whatever it is. But if the brand has things they want to provide, it's great. And the whole thing is to put the brand in the driver's seat, but also agree to, work with them and communicate with them on stuff like this. So, I mean, if they have resources they want to give us, like I'll take all the, pictures and videos I can get. Right. But it's really up to the brand.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Saves us the work.
Another thing is just going off this question, right? It's like, I think a big beginner hurdle is
How
a
do I
lot
do
of
it?
people think that, because I had this concern too, right? It's like you get into this concern that like you need to be able to know how to do all these things, right? Like you need to know how to optimize listings and do graphics and run ads, and the reality is you don't need to know how to do any of that.
Yep.
Like you need to know you need to understand these principles so that you can deliver it and convey it in an effective way on the phone to close the deal. All that stuff comes after.
Going to
Right?
read the tweet that I did an hour ago.
You can literally outsource all of that. You can hire somebody on Fiverr for graphics. You can work with an agency for ads. You can work with a Fiverr person for ads. Like Fiverr is going to be your best friend when it comes to doing all that stuff. If you don't know how to do it, if you want to learn it yourself, like by all means, like I think it's good information to know. But the goal and objective at square one should be to say what you have to say to close the account. And then once you close the account and, you obviously like you get it lead into the brand exclusivity, maybe at some point, then you could close and sign a brand direct exclusive and not have a thing to know about how to optimize a listing. Like you don't even know the first step. You could still close a brand exclusive.
Which I feel like people are just like, that's when people hear that, they're like, what, really? Well, you probably see that. I literally tweeted that an hour ago. It says, if you can sell the vision, you can outsource the logistics. Right. And that's true. Everything, you don't have to know everything. You just have to know more than the person you're talking to. And the key to that is you have to follow through on your promise, right? Like that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
You can bullshit it and be like, we're going to do this and that, and have no idea how to do it. But then if you sign that contract and you don't perform on what you said, you are destroying that relationship. And suppliers talk, right? So, you might get dropped from that. You might get dropped from the contract. You might not, get another contract in the industry or something, right? So follow through on, you never want to start the relationship off on a lie. That being said, we sometimes, you can bend the truth a little bit, but you have to execute and follow through.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. You have to execute, you don't, and you also want to, like this applies to sales in general, no matter what you're closing, you always want to give them like a small win in the beginning or just like a reassurance that they made the right decision. Mm-hmm. So we'll always do something like right off the bat after we, just right away to provide value right away and just, get them excited about working together. Maybe it takes place in the form of an order, or maybe it takes place in the form of like, putting together 3 really strong, solid images for their listing. Whatever it is, just like a small win to reinforce that they made the right decision. That applies to sales in general, but in brand direct wholesale, a lot of what we do is sales. So like giving them that reassurance that they made the right decision is important early on in the relationship.
Yeah, because it's like the what's it called when you go to, I want to say buyer's remorse, but it's actually called something. When you go and buy something, and you're like, I spent all this money, right? Like it's kind of that equivalent feeling sometimes for brands where it's kind of a scary thing. Cognitive dissonance, that's what it's called. They get a little bit like, I don't know if this is the right decision sometimes, right? And there's nothing you can do about that except reinforce that they made the right decision, and provide with value and move forward in a positive direction.
Yeah, sometimes that'll be like, even like at this point, sometimes we'll make that reinforcement an in-person connection. Like we'll go see him in person, or just reinforce that, like, hey, we are partners. We are a strategic partner, with you guys. Like we're in this together. So it doesn't even have to be a direct, like, measurable, tangible thing. It could just literally just be the action of advancing the relationship by, hey, let's, go out to dinner, or let's grab a drink, or whatever.
Yeah. If we got any kind of last minute questions, I think we can probably throw those in there now. Start wrapping things up.
Yeah. So question coming in here real quick about selling on Walmart. So we don't sell on Walmart, but it's a good opportunity. A lot of people are getting into Walmart. We just got we don't have too many irons in the fire. Like, we're working on some different things. It's like you only got so much bandwidth. So, but I think Walmart's a great opportunity for some people if you're looking to expand beyond Amazon. And so the goal is to see how they're handling e-commerce space. And once you hear your opportunity to provide value, and let them know the intentions.
Johnny, you got like 4 typos in there, bro. What's going on? Yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, basically. We're looking at the overall, it kind of is, it's all the big picture, right? So how they're handling the e-commerce space goes back to what their knowledge is of Amazon, and their knowledge of Amazon goes to their pain points and how they treat their business, and then what value you can provide as a result based on those pain points. So, yeah, I think so. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly. And Tim here coming in with a question. Do you guys ever bring up your prior successes when pitching or sealing the deal with brand decision makers? Yeah, I mean, for sure, a lot of times, what I'll say is like, are you opposed to, hearing some solutions that have worked with our other partners? Like in that one sentence, you're kind of hitting a few different things, right? You're giving them the social proof. Hey, we have other partners, and you're kind of also, reducing their doubt because the solutions have worked with other partners.
Yeah, and Tim, don't be afraid to provide references. Obviously ask the brand owners first, but if you got a good relationship going with a brand owner, be like, hey, do you mind if I give you a reference? Another brand can call you, and you can just talk on how we've been as a partner to you. Don't be afraid to do that either.
Yeah. The same applies for distributors too. Like, value is different to everybody. And, you could just be a consistent orderer and a simple guy, easy to work with, who just sends a PO and orders, twice a month, 3 times a month, whatever it is, but you're just consistent and you bring the same things to the table every single time. And maybe it's just consistent ordering. Like that might be like for a distributor, a reference to another distributor that other distributor doesn't want to open you. Well, I've been working with this guy for a year and he pays on time. He, orders consistently. His volume has consistently gone up. Very simple things like that can work you in with distributors and brands. So yeah. That being said, probably wrap it up for Wholesale Wednesday. We go live every Wednesday, 7:00, firing away with questions. Thanks for joining. Any last minutes?
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining up, and please share this content with somebody else. If you found it valuable, appreciate having you guys in here. And like Brad said, every Wednesday we're live.
Peace out, guys. We'll see you next time.
See ya.